Hello, this is Jim McKeeth, and welcome to this Embarcadero Technology skill sprint on remote controlling a Windows app from a mobile device with app tethering. You've most likely seen this diagram before. Our development tools give you a choice of Object Pascal or C++, in combination with the FM application platform, allow you to reach a huge variety of different platforms. You have Windows, Mac OS X, iOS, Android, as well as other emerging future devices like Google Glass and Fire TV. Now, for the longest time, our tools have been regarded as the best tools for developing Windows applications. As a result, we have a lot of users, probably yourself included, that have existing Windows applications. Now, these applications work great, nothing wrong with them, but I'm sure you're all aware of these large number of other devices, other platforms that are out there, and you'd like to take advantage of those, but you're not sure how to fit that into your existing application. Because the reality is, device diversity will continue to expand. There's new devices, new platforms, new wearables coming out all the time. And also, people no longer only have one device that they use regularly. It's real common for people to have at home or at work a computer, possibly a laptop, as well as a tablet, a phone, and maybe even a wearable. And everybody's using all these devices all the time, and they expect those devices to interact with each other and to expand their experience with using the applications they use to get their tasks done throughout the day. That's where app tethering comes in. App tethering allows you to easily expand your existing Windows applications to mobile devices by building mobile companion apps that expand the reach of your Windows VCL applications. So this means you don't have to try and migrate your app from Windows to mobile. Instead, you can extend its reach. So you can control and interact with the existing Windows application from the mobile app. This is all handled through simple communication components on each side that connect over Wi-Fi or TCP/IP on the same subnet, so on the same network. So for example, you could send photos from Google Glass or your mobile device to your existing Windows application. So I have this diagram here to help explain how app tethering works. So you're going to have an existing application, we'll call it your hub application. This could be written with VCL, or it could be written with any of our other technologies, FireMonkey, it could be a console application, etc. It could also be running on any of the platforms we support. And then you're going to create a new companion application. And this companion application, again, can be written with any of the technologies and across any of the platforms we support. And then the tethering provides auto discovery. Typically, it's going to be from the companion application to the hub application, but there is no client and there is no server. So the reality is this auto discovery can go the other direction. It doesn't have to go one way or the other. But once the discovery occurs, then you can send actions and data between the applications. And this is also bidirectional. You can have the companion app sending actions to the hub application, and the hub application sending data back to the companion application, whatever makes sense for you. So this is bidirectional. It's a many-to-many peer-to-peer relationship. There is no client. There is no server. You're not limited to only connecting to one app at a time. You can connect to multiple apps and interact with those however works best for your scenario. It gives you a lot of flexibility to get things done. App tethering is supported through two different components, the Tethering Manager and the Tethering App Profile, and it allows your VCL and FireMonkey apps to communicate and pass data over Wi-Fi using these simple components. It's an open architecture that's pluggable, so in the future we'll plan to add Bluetooth or other technologies to allow your apps to communicate, but for now it uses TCP/IP connectivity, allowing your apps to communicate. Your application will have one Tethering Manager on both sides, so the companion app and the hub app will each have one Tethering Manager. And this is what performs auto discovery. It manages the pairing and connections with the other managers and also handles authentication. Then you can have one or more Tethering app profiles on both sides. This component is what publishes the actions for the remote app to execute. It also runs those remote actions from the other side and sends the data back and forth between the apps. So some common uses you might consider: invoking actions. You could create a second screen for your existing application with remote button clicks and events being passed back and forth between the two apps. You can also use it for remote input by sending strings or any stream of data back and forth between the two apps. So it could be used as a barcode scanner with your phone and the camera on there, or you could use the camera to send photos from your mobile device to your desktop app. You could also collect any of the sensor data or take advantage of the speech recognition built into most mobile devices and create a whole new input paradigm for your users by letting them talk to your application. Really, it's all about expanding your application's reach. Let's go ahead and take a look at app tethering in action using both Object Pascal and C++. We'll start with Object Pascal, but we'll also show you some of the syntax in C++. It's really very simple because of the component architecture, so there's not really a lot of code you need to be concerned with. For this example, I have an existing VCL application. If I run it, you'll see it just, when I tap the button here, it adds the text from the edit box into the list view here. What I'm going to do is walk through the process of updating this existing VCL application to work with app tethering, and then show you how to remote control this application from a mobile app. The first thing is app tethering works through actions. So any events you want to invoke remotely, you need to add an action list down to handle. So what we're going to do is go into the code here with this button click, and I'm going to copy this code and go back to design view, and we're going to create a new action, and we'll call it, give it the caption of add, and the event on execute is going to execute the code that was previously on the button click event, and then we go to the button and we assign that action to it. Okay, so now if I run this application, we see the functionality hasn't changed. When I tap the button, it adds the text to the list box. So now let's add the tethering. So this is done through the new tethering components. We just come down here and we add a tethering manager and a tethering app profile. And remember, you have to have one tethering manager, and then you can have multiple app profiles, although most often you probably will get away with just one. We take the app profile and we point it to the manager. And then on the app profile, we give it a group. And so we're going to call it list actions. And the group is an identifier that allows you to make sure you're connecting to the correct app profile. And then here under the actions property, we're going to publish our existing app action. And all we do is come here to add new, and then we select the action one to publish here, which is action 1, and it has a name of action 1. So you notice right now it's set to public shared, and that means that it's available to our companion application. So we're going to close this down here. If we run this, it is now enabled for tethering. Okay, so now let's go ahead and create our companion application. So I'm going to go ahead and add a new project and create a FireMonkey mobile application. And I'll just do a blank application. So I have some existing UI. I'm just going to drop down here to simplify things. We have a label up here at the top that's going to display our current state. And then we have a button here that we're going to use to connect. So let's give it a caption of connect. And then once that button's connected, then we'll use this second button here to add to the list. So we'll just call this add. And then we'll use this to actually send some text that will get inputted here back to the application. So we'll call this one send. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add a tethering manager and a tethering app profile to our mobile application. And again, we connect the app profile to the tethering manager, and we give it a list, or we give it a group name, which is list actions. So this needs to match our group name from here, list actions. And now we're ready to connect. And so in order to connect, we're going to go in here to our button click. And you could do this automatically when your application starts up. We're going to go to the Tethering Manager, and we're just going to say Auto Connect. That's all there is necessary to connect. And what that's going to do is going to use a UDP broadcast to go out and find another app and connect to that app so that we can send the data to it. I'm going to go here to one of the events here on the Tethering Manager, and we're going to say on end auto connect, and we're going to display the fact that we've connected and enable those other buttons. So we're going to say label one.text equals, and we'll say Tethering Manager one.remote profiles. So we can have multiple profiles, remote profiles that we've connected to. We're going to just go through those. And we're going to just say first. So we just want the first remote profile. And we're going to get the profile group and display it in that label. And then we're going to say button 2.enabled equals true, and button 3.enabled equals true. Okay, that's all that we need to do in order to connect to that, and we're just going to verify that we're connected and enable those buttons. So now I need to run that remote action to add the text to the list. So we're going to go here into our add button, and we go to our Tethering app profile. So the manager handles connections, and the profile handles the actions and the data. So we're going to go to the Tethering app profile, and we're going to say run remote action. And what we're going to do is give it the profile I want to use. So we're going to say Tethering manager dot remote profile dot first. So we're just going to connect to the first profile, and then we give it the name of the action we want to run, which we're going to use action 1. So this is the name of the action as it's published, which in this case defaulted to the name of the action we added, which was just action 1. So that's all that's necessary to run that remote action on the other app. So this is going to give us the remote control of that app. Let's go ahead and take it a step further, and we're going to send the text from this box to the remote app. And we do that again through the Tethering app profile, and we're going to send a string. So you notice we can send a string or we can send a stream. So we're going to just send a string this time. And again, we're going to use the tell it which profile we want to use. So just copy that there. And then the next parameter is a description of the string. And so what this does is allows you to send essentially named value pairs. Okay, so you're going to say, what is the name of the string I'm sending? And the other side can then respond and say, oh, if it's this description, we do this with the string. If it's this description, we do something else. So I'm just going to call it text, because we're not really caring for this demo here. And then we're going to send edit one.text. Okay, that's all that's necessary to send a string from our companion app to our hub application, existing application. So we're going to go ahead and deploy this onto Android. Onto my Nexus 10. So let's go ahead and run the local application here. Save everything off. There's our local application, and let's run this on our Android. Okay, so here it is running on my Nexus 10. I'm going to go ahead and tap the first button there, which says connect. And you see that the caption updated, the label updated there to say list actions, and my 2 buttons are now enabled. So now if I tap the add button, you'll see over on the left in the existing application, it has added that to the list. And we're going to go ahead and go into the text box here, and we'll put some text in here. Hello world. And we're going to hit send. And I did not add the code in my existing application to handle receiving that. So let's go ahead and add that really quick so I can show you what's involved there. So I'm going to go back to my existing VCL application, and on the profile, Tethering app profile, we just need to go to resource received, and we're just going to say edit1.text. This is our local edit1 is going to see a resource.value.asString. And that's all that's necessary there. So let's go ahead and run that again. We'll close the existing one, run it again, bring back up the Nexus 10. I'm going to go ahead and tap connect again so it connects to it. And we'll hit send. And you'll see that hello world has shown up in the box there. Now actually I'm going to shrink this down a little bit here so you can see the keyboard when I bring it up this time. So I'm going to actually tap in here, and I'm going to use the text-to-speech. This is my voice recognition. So there we go. It's done voice recognition for me, and I can hit send and send that to my existing application. So now I just added voice recognition to my existing Windows application in like 3 lines of code and a couple components. Pretty cool. So I can now hit the add button or tap the add button on a mobile app, which then maps to the add button on my existing Windows application. So notice I'm not touching the Windows application at all. Everything I'm doing is through my mobile app. And like I said before, this goes both directions. So if I needed to send data from my Windows applications to the mobile application, I can do that as well. Same thing with invoking actions that direction. So we saw this app built with Object Pascal. Here's the compared source code for C++ to connect. Just use the tethering manager and call the autoconnect method. And then here is the code to run a remote action. It's pretty much exactly the same. Just provide it with the remote profile that you want to send the action to and the name of the action. And then to send a string, again, it's the remote profile, the name of the string, and the value for the string. For more information on app tethering, you can check out the DocWiki page, which there's a link for it right there. Also, we ship a number of examples, so if you don't already have Rad Studio XE6 installed, go out and grab the trial now, download it, and you can check out the samples there in either the Object Pascal or the C++ folder. Then go to RTL for Runtime Library and Tethering. You'll want to make sure that you update those samples from SourceForge using Subversion so that you have the latest version. So sometimes there'll be newer samples that are available on the Subversion repository than are what actually ship. And you can just simply do a Subversion update, and it'll pull that data right down into your sample folder. Hope you'll join us next time on June 5th for how to add taskbar controls to modernize your Windows application. This is a great way to better integrate your app into Windows 7 and Windows 8. And now it's time for questions.
Question about expand to connect any IP address. Like I said, Marco Cantu's got a blog post coming up about that specifically to connect to specific IP addresses.
Hey Jim, it's Steve here. One thing I would say about connecting across to other devices, the manager implies usage of a specific set of interfaces, and all the source code's there, so you can delve in and see exactly how the discovery is done today. And the whole great thing about having interfaces is you can go build your own manager if you want to do the connection. So there's no reason why you can't go and build and work with those interfaces that are there and put your own stuff in there as well. That's part of why we build things with interfaces in. So.
Exactly, yeah, and it's that's what the code sample Marco has shows how to use change that out. So here's a question about connecting to Windows Mobile 8, so that if you wanted to implement the protocol on Windows Mobile 8, it's conceivable you could get that to work. We don't have a component for that, but there's no reason you couldn't connect to it from somewhere else, I imagine. So the question is, there are more tethering examples available on the net, somewhere on the net. If you go to the SourceForge repository, Well, if you have XE6 installed, then you have the tethering examples, and like I said, you can update those examples that ship with it. But there's a photo wall demo that streams a picture from the mobile device to the desktop, and so that you can look at that one to get an idea of how streaming works. The main points are what I covered here, but that goes into streaming as well, so you can see how to stream a picture, and then also pulls out the meta information about the picture, where the file type and stuff like that. Is TCP/IP used to send actions and strings, etc.? If so, what port is used? There's a few different ports used in order to negotiate, because you can actually do it on the same machine, and so they're able to negotiate which port they're using. So it's not a single specific port. How do you tie instances together? It looks like if the server is live, any client can connect. So the group string that I specified is used to specify, hey, this is what I'm looking for, and this is what I'm offering. And so if they were different group, if you had different group names on those, then they wouldn't necessarily have to connect those. You can look and say, hey, what groups are available, and then choose to connect one of those. But that's the way you specify what which ones connect to each other is by group name.
Yeah, I just found there's the ports are 2020 to 2040, and they're covering a post blog by David Eyes, so I've just put a link to that into the chat window for anybody who wants to have a look at that.
Oh, great. What were they again?
2020 to 2040.
2020, 2040. Okay. So the connection is not restricted to only Wi-Fi, but is restricted to the same subnet. So if you are on Ethernet on the same network, you can still connect, but you have to be on the same subnet. Is this method useful with very big amount of data? The streams, you can do quite a bit. Like we're doing some pretty high-resolution photos. With streaming, you should be able to do quite a bit of data, since it is streaming it. You might find you want to break it into smaller stream packages. Something for you to look into. It depends on how you define big numbers of data. Can you tether small databases? Yeah, you could use tethering to send a database file across, and then on the other end retrieve that file and mount it as a database.
Something else that you can do at the moment is with some of the refactoring that's been done in XE6 to take the JSON support and decouple it from DB Express. You can add to your uses rest.json, and in there's a helper class called tjson, which has methods that are used with a number of the REST components, things like tjson.object to JSON string. So you can literally write a single line of code to convert an object into a JSON string representation, which you can then send as the data packet and then convert the other end. So you could even actually pass objects by serializing them to and from using the rest.json unit as well.
Oh, that's a great idea. I love that. There's one thing about tethering is cool because it really opens up lots of different things you can do, like example I showed about how to basically add voice recognition to your application.
Yeah, that's cool.
Actually, I was sitting there doing this. I was like, what would be interesting? Oh, that'd be cool if I could do voice recognition. Hey, look, it works.
And yeah, Robert's asked if we can send an object from a desktop application to a mobile. Once the connection's up, then yeah, you can send stuff both ways. Again, have a look at the samples that come with RadStudio XE6, because one of the samples in there actually is kind of a stock system where you kind of put in the items that you need to collect and what the stock level needs to be. And then you launch up multiple mobile clients, and you can have people out gathering the items to go into that that order. And as one person selects it, it will disappear then from all the other devices that are connected in. So you see, two-way communication happening through the network for that, which is pretty cool.
Trying to add tethering to, I have that a Bluetooth, that app for doing the Bluetooth remote control car, and I wanted to control it from my desktop because I was using the brain computer interface on the desktop. And so I tried to tether from the desktop to the mobile app, but for some reason my mobile device was being unreliable for receiving a connection. I think it was going to sleep. And so I was like, well, I'll just try going in the direction. So I added the tethering to connect from the mobile app to the desktop app. That worked great because then it was staying awake because I was tapping on the screen, and then I was able to send the data the other direction. So it doesn't matter which direction you open the connection from, because once you've made a connection, you can send data either direction. Can we locate the peer location coordinates, like latitude and longitude? If you send that information, so you could have the mobile device send back its latitude and longitude over as a string or as a stream either way. The number of ports that are available does not restrict the number of clients because I believe it can have the hub application can be listening on one port, and each client can then be connecting to it on whatever port's available on that side. So that's just the ports it can use, and that way you could have, that would limit you to 21 devices or 21 apps per machine. So if you had more than 21 apps on your one machine, you'd run out of IP address or run out of ports that you would be listening on. But you can have multiple connections over a single port, I believe. Maybe not. Maybe I should test that. I don't know if I have 21 devices to test with. So Joe has a question if actions are absolutely necessary. You wouldn't have to use actions. You could use strings. You could just send a string and say, do this. Your string could just, your description could be command, and then the value would be the command you want to run. And on the other side, you could receive that resource and say, if the string is button 1, then button 1 click or something like that. You could do that. Actions make it a lot simpler to invoke something remotely, but since you get an event when the string arrives and you can parse that string and decide whatever you decide to have those strings mean, you could create your own system that way as well.
And the great thing when you're tethering this up to an existing application is that if you're using actions within your code, they obviously enable if the action is enabled or disabled and so on. And just being able to go through and tell the action to go do something, your main master application can still define if it's going to allow that kind of stuff coming in or not through the actions, which is stuff people have been using actions for years. I spoke to one guy when I was going around doing some events who's moved code up from Delphi 7, and literally within about 10-15 minutes he put everything into his main application, and the ability to send the photos down, which is basically what he was after for a registration process, was implemented really, really quickly. And he'd already got actions set up for taking the photo, so he just literally hooked it up through to that, and off he went. Which is pretty cool.
Can we send data as different format, for example, XML, CSV, PDF, or any other formats? So if you take a look at the photo wall demo that ships with XE6, you'll see that it's streaming photos, and on the other end, it looks to say, hey, is this a JPEG or a PNG? And so you can stream any type you want to, and then use that same, because a stream can be anything. So anything you can put into a stream, which you can put anything in a stream, you can then stream across, and then look at that example there for how it determines whether it's a JPEG or a PNG, and then reconstitutes it at the other side. So that's a good example. Parsing the string, yes, you can avoid using actions by parsing the string. Can a single mobile app be simultaneously connected to multiple Windows apps? You should be able to do that. It should be able to connect to multiple Windows apps. I haven't tested that, but looking at the architecture and based on what I have done, it totally should be supported to connect one mobile app to multiple Windows apps. I've had multiple mobile apps connected to one Windows app, and I have had. Okay, I take that back. I have had one mobile app connected to multiple Windows app as well. So yes, it is supported. You can iterate through that list of remote profiles and choose the one you want. Then there is not a broadcast mode where you can send one action to all connected devices. At least not that I've seen. But you could quickly spin through them and send the messages out. Can a Windows app initiate connectivity to iOS? Yes, and I've done more work with Android than with iOS, and I found that some Android devices are kind of finicky in the way they accept incoming connections because they put the Wi-Fi antenna to sleep. So that conceivably could also be the case for iOS, is that if iOS puts the Wi-Fi antenna to sleep, then it won't accept a new incoming connection. If the Wi-Fi antenna is awake, the phone's awake, and everything, then yes, you could, Windows app could initiate connectivity from the Windows app to the iOS device. It's more reliable to go the other way around because if you initiate it from the device, then the device says, hey, make a Wi-Fi connection, and the device says, oh, let's wake up that antenna and make that connection. So it can work. On Android, there's the concept of a Wakelock where you can say, turn on my Wi-Fi antenna and keep it on until I tell you otherwise. And if you do that, then you should be able to receive the incoming connections just fine.
Let me first say, Jim, great webinar, well done, mate. We'll be back in a couple of days on the 5th, and I'll be taking you through the new taskbar components, and looking how you can really give your Windows applications a great modern look with some of the new taskbar components that have been added into X6.
Which those are really cool. It really not only gives you a modern look, but better integrates you into the OS and gives your app more functionality and more accessibility, I think.
It's all about bringing usability straight back to the front, isn't it? They're brilliant for that.
Yes. Yeah, so that'll be on the 5th, so everybody can come back and join us for that, and that will be great. I'll be looking forward to that one as well. All right, well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, JT and Stephen, for helping answer questions today. Yeah, thank you very much, and we'll talk to you all later.